Welcome to the Indie Musician Summit 2021 with your host, Kate Westwood, brought to you by Westwood Management.
Welcome back to the Indie Musician Summit. Kate here again. I am so excited to welcome back to the summit the amazing Chynna Taylor. She was with us last year and she's back again. Hello.
Hello. I'm so happy to be back in another round.
Another round. And you are a singer, a songwriter, an artist. You're a wife. You're a brand new mother. Just 4 or 5 months ago. I can't remember how old she is.
Yeah, she's 5.5 months. She's actually, I think she's closer to 6. So it's almost her half birthday.
There you go. So the world has changed for you in a lot of ways. And last year we talked about the way that you engage with your audience and things that you do. And I'm so excited to have you back to kind of talk a little bit more practically around being a vocalist. But before we get into all of that, why don't you just, for people who don't know who you are, who weren't with us last year, tell us a bit about yourself, a little bit of your history, how you got to be where you are today.
Well, my name is Chynna Taylor, and I am a lifelong lover of singing, I would say first and foremost. But a little bit about me is I grew up singing in church with my family. My mom and dad met in a punk rock band, so music has kind of been ingrained into everyday life for me since I was very young. And then I started being a semi-professional singer at about the age of 8 and pretty much auditioned for anything and everything. I've been through the ringer with auditioning and good and bad auditions, a lot of bad ones. And then I had a record deal. I lost a record deal with my sister in Nashville, Tennessee. So we had a record deal with Capitol Records Nashville, and then that fell through. And that's a whole other can of worms to get into, but lots of lessons through that. And then I came to Australia, and as soon as I became a permanent resident, my husband encouraged me to go on X Factor Australia in 2016. And then I did The Voice in 2019. And now we're in 2021, and I just became a mom. And I have my own online vocal coaching business called How to Sing. And that keeps me busy in between gigging and recording in the studio and releasing music independently. So I've been independent for a while, and I've learned a lot along the way, and I'm just kind of like a well of what to do and what not to do, I think. But I've really enjoyed my crazy ride in the music business, or just as a musician. I think you got to look back joyfully at your journey, whatever it looks like.
So good. And I think for many people who are listening today, they're probably going to have a similar experience of trying a lot of things, getting a lot of no's, having possible big deals, and then things not happening. Like, it's a really common story. You know, what do they say? Something like 9% of label deals actually equal a career. You know, the rest are, short-lived, or you get yourself. Like, so it's real. And I love that we can all go, okay, cool. This is either on a sad note, I might not get it, it might not happen. But also, if that's how it is, that's so real and going to be a lot of people's story. So,
and no is a big aspect of this job. And I would say hearing no, it's not that you should get used to it, but I think knowing that before going into wanting to be a professional singer or musician, songwriter, I think it's important to kind of learn how to cope with that and learn how to brace for the no's, because hearing no doesn't technically get easier as time goes on. I think you just learn how to bounce back quicker. But no is no, and it's always kind of hard to hear. Even I have found that hearing no, even like a week ago, it's hard. It's like because you think and you're like, okay, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Could I do something better? But it's the bounce back that gets, I think, easier. You get that little bit more thick skin, resilience. You have a bit more confidence in yourself that when you do get kicked back, you kind of know where you stand, and so you can come back quicker. So that's the bright side of kind of walking through it.
Yeah. So good. Such great insight. I would want to touch on how to sing. So This is something you've been doing for a couple of years. Tell us a little bit more about what it is, how you engage with artists, what made you want to actually start your own little business in this vocal coaching kind of area.
So How to Sing was, I guess, officially birthed in September of 2019, but I had kind of been working as a vocal coach on and off throughout gigging and doing things like that, because it was a convenient way to kind of bring in income. But mainly, I would always have friends or people who knew me DM me or send me emails. Hey, I've completely lost my voice and I have to be in the studio that night. I'm talking like professional artists that I knew. What do I do to get my voice back? And then I would tell them, do this, this, and this, and this. So I was always kind of helping the people around me with their voice, and what kind of warm-ups to do, or how to kind of get back into it, get back into shape. So I had kind of done it on the side, and I was like, oh, I'll never be a vocal teacher. I don't really want to do that. I want all my focus to be on being an artist. But I kind of did it on the side. And my love for singing, it really is in the technical side as well, because I love learning about the physicality of the voice. So like the anatomy of how the body works to produce sound. And I research a lot, and I have a biomedical science background. So I'm interested in the human body, and I did a lot of uni courses in that. So it kind of all came together, and I wanted something in music that could support me financially with a little bit more stability than gigging or making money off of putting out a song. Because independently, it's very hard to make income off of putting out music. Gigging is different, but putting out music, we've lost a lot of that income flow as the years have gone digital. So I started it officially, made a website, like a web store, had people sign up, got clients. And I mean, I did everything, and I really pushed. And then at a 6 months later, maybe 5 or 6, I was completely booked out. And it really helped to have been on a show like The Voice that ended in July. And then I launched this in September, and I just didn't want to wait, or I didn't want to waste the exposure off of a show like that, because you can really gain a lot off of what they do for you, which is they exploit your name, and you're out there and you're fresh in everyone's mind. So I wanted to kind of take advantage of that and use that as a resource. And so I think it was just a timing thing. I don't know. And it kind of just all really came together at about March, right before the pandemic hit. And then everyone went online. So then I got even busier because people had a lot of downtime with their kids. So everyone started signing up. So How to Sing is just my way to connect with everyone who wants to learn how to use their voice more consistently so that they can gain more confidence. And I just wanted to be able to bring that in a convenient way. So How to Sing is all about the 3 C's. It's convenient, so it keeps you consistent, and then it helps your confidence as a singer. So that's how I engage. I do it online via Zoom or Skype. Sometimes even if you're a good friend of mine, I'll FaceTime you. I help people with their auditions. It doesn't always have to be purely based on technique. I can help them with a performance piece. It's pretty much what anyone needs from me. I just try to throw everything that I have, all my knowledge, back at the client, whoever they may be, what they need, and so that they can grow in their voice and in their vocal technique, but also their confidence, because singing is a lot of confidence. Like, you need to be able to kind of stand in your own boots and rely on what you've learned to really come through when you're on stage.
Yeah, I love the story of that, and looking for capitalizing on those opportunities, and I think that's a good encouragement for us who are in this limbo stage. So many of us at the moment, is that if we're ready to go when the opportunities come, we can jump on them. If we lead into my next question, if we haven't done any prep, or we haven't done any rehearsal, or we just have not sung at all, then by the time things jump and we're ready to go again, we might be in a bit of trouble. And I use the example of, I sing in church, and I also have done some recording for my next album, and I got back into doing a little bit of singing at church, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so strained. I've forgotten how to sing because I was at home. I normally was doing at least 1 rehearsal a week. There was a lot of conversations, so I was using my voice way more, and I was like, I don't get strained, but now every time I sing, I've forgotten all the things I should, and I just haven't been working my muscle, I guess, in that space. I haven't been using it the way I was. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about that. So many of us are singing less. We're not doing our rehearsals. We're not gigging. We're probably not even at the gig singing along. You know, how can we maintain and take care of our voices when we're just doing so much less than we were before?
I think the main thing that I'll touch on here is consistency in the downtime. So if anyone's gone through music industry lulls, I would say definitely I have. And there was a period of time where I didn't think I'd ever sing again. And I had this year of downtime here in Australia where I was a barista and I'd kind of given up on music. I wasn't even singing at home. And about 9 months had passed. And then I kind of felt healed from losing that record deal that I had spoken about earlier that I lost. And I started kind of singing again. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do something for me. I don't want to sing in front of people anymore. I don't want to be in the music business. I want to just work on my voice for me. So I started doing like a vocal aerobics. I'm talking 5 to 10 minutes a day. And I would do it. I'd put on my little vocal aerobics CD. It had like a breathing exercise and like 3 vocal exercises. Nothing fancy. Literally the easiest vocal exercises in the world, the same range. I never pushed it. And I'd put that on in my car, in my little Barina, because it's the only thing I knew how to drive. And I would do my vocal exercises on the way to work in the morning. So that's probably at like really early in the morning, 6:30 a.m. So I'd be very slow into it. I'd do breathing exercise and 3 vocal exercises. And I saw the most vast improvement in my voice. And I only did it when I went to work. So that was like 3 or 4 times a week, 5 to 10 minutes. I think altogether that whole tape of the 4 exercises was maybe 7 minutes max. Sometimes I would repeat a song and do like a different vowel to it if I felt like it. Most of the time I just kind of did it begrudgingly so I could like tick it off my list. But I would say have a 5-minute a day rule or 5 minutes 3 times a week. Don't make it crazy. You don't have to practice hours on end to see a difference in your voice. You have to work out the muscle. It's just like stretching. So for instance, someone who wants to learn how to do the splits or something like that, they just need to stretch a little bit every day. And then eventually after a couple of weeks, they're like, oh, I'm like that much further in my split. But it seems like it happens out of nowhere. No, it doesn't. It's all the little minutes that you spend it doesn't have to be 3 hours. I'm going to go sit at my piano and practice. No, 10 minutes a day. Time yourself. Set a little timer. Do 5 minutes of something vocally. Warm up. Do some buzzing. Do it while your kettle boils for like your cup of tea or while you're waiting on your morning coffee. I try to tell students to integrate it into something else that they always do. So if you hate breathing exercises, do it while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. It's about a minute, okay? A minute. You'd be really surprised how much diaphragm work you get done in a week of doing that just while the kettle boils. It's only 7 minutes. So let's say you do a vocal exercise for 1 minute every day in a week. 7 minutes of vocal exercising. Better than 0. And it does add up. It's a very snowball with the voice because the voice does get out of shape. So the voice is very, the vocal cords are based on elasticity. They need to be able to stretch. So a lot of times when people get out of shape vocally, the vocal cords just don't have the same strength in the cricoid cartilages to lift. And this is all technical, but you basically just need to stretch them out like rubber band until they get used to, oh, we're stretching like that again. Okay. And then they stop cracking or they stop breaking, or you feel just looser when you're singing that high or when you're singing low. So it's just all about the little baby consistent things. Just a slow warm up 2 to 3 times a week. I'm talking just buzz. You'd be really surprised how that can really make your voice feel in shape. You'll be consistent. You'll feel looser. You'll just have more longevity. It doesn't have to be crazy. And after doing that 5 minute a day thing that I did 4 times a week on the way to my barista job, my voice grew in 3 months. And I was so prepared to go on X Factor, which I hadn't even planned on going on. I didn't even want to do it. My husband drove me and I was like, can we turn around? And he's like, no, you committed. We're going to do it. So I was like, okay, so that 3 months of work that I put in, I mean, astronomically prepared me for a out of the blue audition that I didn't even really want to do because I was still a little bit battered and bruised from, my past shortcomings in the music business. But regardless, it was important that I did something for me. And it also gives the artist or the person that little bit of confidence that you are putting something into your voice behind closed doors. You will see the fruit of that. You will see that when the doors are open. But if you're not putting the work in, you're probably going to mess up in front of people because you don't have the practice to back it up. So you don't have that just habit-based singing. So you're going to feel really nervous. You're not going to really trust yourself. But if you've been doing 5 minutes a day, and you know your voice and you feel good about it, and that's something no one can take away from you. So when that opportunity comes, and now what you've done behind closed doors, now you're in person, you're going to bear that fruit, and it's going to be good fruit. Like, yeah, you might still mess up, but you won't berate yourself in the same way because you know you've invested. Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and I would challenge anyone to try it. The 5 minutes a day. Don't start off crazy, because if you I'm going to practice 30 minutes a day, you're not going to do it. And then you're going to be mad at yourself because you didn't do it. But 5 minutes goes by like that. In the car goes by like that. You're already there. Mm-hmm. Attach it to something. So I think that's something that is very important to try and be consistent in. And I think I'm going to write a whole blog about it because it's such an important concept to me. It's really helped me out. And I did it the same thing for the voice. And I was in great vocal shape for the voice. My voice was very responsive throughout the whole show. And a lot of people lose their voice towards the end because it's just very grueling, not the singing, but just everything else, the talking, the being awake, the being stressed. The voice responds to stress and not always positively. So having your voice be in shape and putting in those 5 minutes a day, or, you can work yourself up and do a couple half an hour ones if you really need to, but mainly 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Easy.
Love that. Well, I make at least 3 cups of tea a day. So, usually I'm like, well, this is wasted time. I'll go and do something else while the kettle's boiling. So I can, change my mind. All right, well, I stand there in the kitchen and just do some breathing. I'm going to take that on.
Yeah. And you can even do a singing, like a vocal exercise, because you don't need to do the craziest vocal exercise. Just do something light and easy. The voice doesn't need to go to extremes to grow. You don't have to sing at your highest in order for the voice to grow in range. A lot of people think they have to sing really high to grow their range. No, make that midsection really, really, really nice and flexible. And those ends will grow without you kind of even tapping into them all that often, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, awesome. So good. So practical. And
yes, very practical.
That's what we're wanting to do. And so let's chat and move on to the whole thing of recording. So, it is a whole different world. And I remember my first time in the studio when I did my first album, and I thought, this isn't even singing. This is whispering into a microphone. And I'm a bit of a belter and, did all those things. And I found singing in the studio, what my producer was asking me to do, so strange and so different from my years of just live, on stage, at church, in front of your friends singing. It was so different. And I actually felt like it actually really helped me understand my voice, learning how to sing.
That's good that you got that from it, though. That's excellent.
Things I'd never really explored, like the sensitivity parts of it. I knew the big, bold parts, but anyway, it's not about me. I would love to chat about, getting ready to go into the studio, preparing our voices, and even exactly what you said, feeling really strong and your voice being ready for the task ahead. I'd love some insights about how to do that. Some maybe 5 to 10 tips or strategies that you have that could really help artists go, okay, well, I'm hoping to record in the next couple of months. This is what I can do to make sure that my voice is really ready, especially in light of this time that we've been in where we haven't been singing. So
yes. And I would say, even if you don't have anything on the books just yet, start these things that I'm gonna tell y'all. Start them now, and you'll be just so relieved when you get to the point where you are gigging again, or in the studio, or releasing music, or you might even have the confidence to put out more live singing on your Instagram or just whatever. So I would say reiterate the 5-minute a day rule. I think that's the easiest thing to implement into your daily life. Make singing and working on your voice a daily act, and not just, oh, I'm in the car, I'm going to sing to the radio. You have to throw in some technical. You have to, because just like a athlete, you don't just jump into deadlifting, 100 kilos. You want to work up to that. You want to get strong so you don't injure yourself. And vocal injury is a big thing, like straining. That's a vocal injury. You can come back from straining, but if you continue just to layer and layer upon that strain, you're going to hurt yourself. So start off small, 5 minutes. I use this app called the Forest app, and I'll set it for whatever time I want to do it. And I just don't touch my phone, and I can even watch it count down, and I grow a tree during that time, whether it's 5 minutes or 10, half an hour, whatever I need to kind of laser focus in on. You might have to do that in the beginning with the 5 minutes. I would say get yourself an easy vocal program that you can have on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, have it in your car, have it ready to go to where when you're pulling out to go to work, or really all we can do right now is go to the grocery store. Or maybe you just like to take a drive to get out of your house during lockdown. Put it on and go for a loop for 15 minutes and do some vocal exercises. Don't go crazy. Just sit and do some easy vocal warm-ups. Your voice will grow immensely from that. So always have them readily available. When I didn't have a baby, I used to just have them on my phone. And while I was putting away the dishes or in my car, I would have them play and I would do them like that. So always pair them with another task, and it integrates into your lifestyle. I would say as well, incorporate some type of cardio. I know that sounds weird, but some type of, not swimming. I don't think singers should swim because it's very dehydrating. But if that's what you want to do, just go ahead and do it. But do a walk, do a run. Running is really good for singing. It really helps you kind of target your diaphragm in a different way and gives you a lot of endurance. And it also gives you, better posture, which is better for singing. So that's kind of like a random one, but I would say to do that, or walk, even cycle, like hop on a stationary bike. It's good for your mental health, but it's really just good to loosen everything up as well. I would say pick what songs you want to record or what goal you have, and look at, okay, if I want to sing this song, that's always been really hard for me, I'm going to go over it 3 to 5 times twice a week to start off with. So I'll do my vocal warm-ups, which take about 7 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. Then I'm going to go over the song 3 to 5 times. Now, in the beginning, you're going to feel like a million bucks. And it's not going to be a habit yet. So it's going to be new and fresh. So you'll be like, oh, I'm just going to do it 10 times. Don't. Keep yourself from overdoing it. Just do it the 3 to 5 times. Step away from it. Write down a couple of notes of things that you want to fix. What vowels are giving you problems? Mark them. Mark what words challenge you. And how can I fix this? Okay, so a lot of times we'll have challenging vowels in a word of a song. So we'll be like, oh, I can't sing that song. Yes, you can. Change the vowel. Change the key. You can do it. You can change this and work up to where you want to be in it. But if you just completely disregard it and quit, you're never going to achieve it. So pick a song that might challenge you in your vowels or consonants or just whatever, and make small goals for that song. So for the voice, I had some really challenging songs that were high in range, high in basically vocal dexterity. I had to really use my breathing techniques. So I would basically either handwrite or print my lyrics out, and they were marked to death. And I would have multiple copies, and I'd make new markings after a month had passed. So I would tackle a few things, and then I would lead to the next thing. So that's very important to get ready for anything, even if it's your original song. You have to go over it. And then I would say, once you've done that, set up a camera, either your iPhone, or if you have a camera, and film yourself performing it. It's going to feel bizarre to just perform to a camera. It's going to feel really icy and like that really weird feeling that you get in auditions where the people are just staring at you while you're performing and there's no energy. You have to get used to that. Brace for the energyless performances, because then when you have a performance and people are into it, it's just going to make it that much better. But if you don't get used to that, like weird, uncomfortable, I'm singing to my phone, I'm fake performing this, you can't fix any of the little things that you need to fix before you hit the big time or the big show time. You know what I mean? So for the song like Shallow, everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're blind. It was perfect. Well, it wasn't. There was a lot of things that I did wrong that I didn't rehearse. Like I had rehearsed and then I didn't perform them right when the nerves got me. But because I had worked so hard on a lot of the stuff, no one could really notice that I didn't succeed 100% in every technique that I wanted to pull out. But I succeeded in a lot of them. But what every audition or performance shows you is where your weaknesses are. Don't take them as, oh, I suck, or, ooh. I mean, I'll still do that and cringe, but I'll make a mental note, or sometimes I'll even write them down. And those are the things I need to work on, because when the nerves hit, when I was under pressure, my habit wasn't strong enough to override it. So you want strong enough habits to override the nerves, period. And then lastly, for this, and then I'll get to how to specifically prepare for a recording. Lastly is always practice breathing more in a song than what you think is necessary. So don't ever breathe in the middle of a word or in a weird part. But if you need to practice, like mark where you're going to breathe and breathe a little bit more, because when you get nervous, you run out of your air capacity that you're used to, right? So when you're just in front of your camera, you can freaking hold out a note for like a million years. You can do a whole phrase. But when you're in front of, let's say, Guy Sebastian or whatever, like I'm just throwing it out there, you're going to lose some of your diaphragm technique because your heart is going to be racing. So you're going to need more oxygen, because it's like you're running. Your heart's like, boo, 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 boo. So you start breathing shallow. So you need to slow down that breathing first by slow it down and then do an 8 count in, hold it for 8 and hiss out for 8. It doesn't seem like 8 count seems like nothing. That is hard when you're nervous to hold that 8 count. Slow down your heart as much as you can and recenter. Always slow down by breathing. So practically for recording, like you were saying, I had the same problems you did. When I first started recording, like really recording around the age of 17, I was so loud and they didn't know how to do the gain, and the preamps were weird, and they were having to change a lot of stuff for me instead of me kind of adapting to a different performance mode. So I learned a lot about my voice as well. And I didn't like the way I sounded when I was recorded for many years. And I was like, okay, how do I change this? How do I like hearing my voice back? Because I used to hate it. And I was like, maybe it's just an artist thing. Maybe every artist just hates what they sound on playback. No, you can actually start liking how you sound.
Yeah.
It's all about finesse. And the studio needs more finesse than a live performance. You also don't need as much volume or girth or certain aspects like that, because the studio is there to capture things more sensitively. So really, you need better diction. You need more consonants. So really focus on completing your words, I would say would be my first tip. And by completing all of your consonants, your S's, your T's, everything like that, completing your words actually helps you with better pitch accuracy. And it actually helps you have cleaner sound when picked up through recording. Also, don't be afraid, if you are a louder singer, to step away from the mic to work the mic as well when you're in the studio. A lot of times we think because we're in the studio, we should eat the mic like we do when we're live, but when we're live, we work the mic as well. Work the mic in the studio. Don't turn your face technically this way. So if the mic's here, don't turn to the side. Pull back and slightly like that, not full on, because what happens is like that whole sound goes through and it gets a little bit distorted. Even if your gain and your engineer is amazing, it will still get distorted. But if you just slightly turn, not completely like that, because you're not going to capture the sound great, but just a little bit and pull back. Work that mic so that when you have those delicate parts, you can eat the mic and it can pick up every little nuance, all that beautiful breathing that you want for like that passionate sound, you know, because you want to, breathing is part of singing. So a lot of people think they don't consider breathing as part of singing. It is. You can really be dynamic with where you breathe and how you use it, like, all by myself, don't wanna be. See how I use that breath to kind of, like, it was an emotion in and of itself. So breathe. I don't know why I picked that song. God knows why. Maybe because we're in lockdown. I don't know. But you see how you can use your breath and you can use dynamics to draw people in. Don't waste the breath, okay? So yeah, use the mic and that, like, work it. Don't overdo it though, because sometimes the engineer will have issues with capturing certain things. And also, don't be down on yourself if the engineer maybe says, okay, let's do verses first, because that's one dynamic, and then we'll do pre-choruses, a little bit more of a dynamic, and then we'll do the choruses, so that you're not having to change gears in the studio, because it is different than live. And sometimes when you're in a gear, it's very hard to, especially if you're kind of getting back into it or learning about your voice in the studio, it's hard to change gears that quick. So don't be discouraged if the engineer asks you to do something in particular. Go with it, and it will help you learn, okay, this gear is harder for me to stay in, or I need to do this gear first, because once I'm in my belt, it's going to be harder for me to tone it down. So just kind of go with it and learn about your voice, listen to playback, find the things that you like, and flag the things that you don't like to hear, and how can you change them. And then seek a professional. Like, if you can't fix it on your own, I mean, you don't have to come to me, but find someone online, watch their YouTube video, do some research. You don't have to necessarily pay for help. A lot of resources are free online. So what else can I say about the studio? Be well hydrated, and that's it. Make sure you're hydrated 24 hours before. I'm talking 5 liters of water. Get that voice lubricated, and it will be more flexible for you, and you'll have more control over what you want to do. So some practical ways and different things like that.
Yeah, so good, so helpful. Things that you don't really think about when you go into recording. And I mean, for me, I don't think I really understood my head voice before I recorded. Yeah. Because I didn't need that. You know, I was singing and playing. It was really just about being as loud as you could. And one thing, you know, on reflection of what you're saying, I realized, that I have slightly, not uncontrolled, but vibrato that I'm like, I don't like that I do that as much as I do. So it made me aware of things that I didn't even recognize that I did. And I don't want to cut those things out, because that's part of my character, that's part of my tone, but I want to understand how to do it intentionally rather than just That's
so great that you said that, because when I teach someone something, I always say, I'm not teaching you to not do what you were just doing, but you know how to do that. I want to teach you the alternative so that you have both tools. As a singer, you need lots of tools in your tool belt, or colors to paint the picture. The more colors you have, the better picture you can create. If you're limited, you can only do one or you can only do the other, you're going to be limited in how you can get that song across. Another thing to help you practically is if you're struggling with being in your head voice and having that finesse, or you're struggling with vibrato, send the sound through your cheeks, up in this section here, through your eyes and cheeks. See how I changed the vibrato and I made it clear? It's because I was focusing the sound out of my cheeks and my eyes. You can do that by placing a hand on your cheek. It sounds ridiculous, but the voice follows your outside cues. So if you put a hand on the cheek and you're like, I want to sing this out of my cheeks, it will respond. You'll be very surprised. And so a lot of times I'll upload videos of me in the studio because I want people to see where my hands are and how I use my hands to create different sounds. My hands are up here all the time, and I'm always doing this. Sometimes you'll even see a hand on my cheek. Sometimes you'll see me working the mic like I just said. I use all of these things. They're very practical ways to get the voice to respond when you're kind of in not a high pressure situation, but the there's something intimate about the studio because your voice is just exposed. All the little things where you're like, ooh, they're exposed. So all the tools that you can have to help you achieve different sounds, the more, the merrier, in my opinion.
I love that. I remember one thing that really impacted me the first time I was in recording with my producer. He said, you know what, we can fix the notes, but we can't add emotion.
That's a good one.
Like, because I wanted to be really authentic, and I'm like, I don't want you to change all the notes. He said, well, if you're trying to sing perfectly, then it's going to be really hard to get the emotion and the feeling at the same time, because you're going to be, they kind of trump each other. And I was like, just so many things you just don't know until you get into the studio. And again, it does exactly what you're saying, depending on your engineer, depending on their skills. Do you think that, I'm kind of throwing this at you, things that you should maybe be asking your engineer or your producer before you go in around how you should approach it as a singer?
That's a great question. And I think, yes, I have more often than not just gotten into the studio and have either been really, really lucky with a great engineer, or it took a while to warm up, which is because I didn't ask questions or didn't ask what suited them or what their preference was with certain things. So I would say a question that I always ask is, do you prefer me to work the mic or to not work the mic? Because some engineers don't like it. And they would prefer, like I said, the changing gears thing. So they will gain you for your verses, then they'll pull back the gain for the bigger bridges and stuff like that. Some engineers do prefer that. I have an amazing engineer, Phil Tercio in Melbourne, and I can just do whatever. And he's so fast and he is a genius that he just goes with it and goes with me. It's not that every engineer is not a genius. I think Phil also just understands my voice and how to capture it. I've never had an engineer capture my voice the way Phil does, especially on the last couple of songs and the album that I released and the Christmas one. He just has this special way. And yeah, I would say I'm very blessed to have found an engineer that has given that to me, because I was in Nashville for years. And my voice was never captured like that. I'm not the singer that I am today as well, so it's kind of part and parcel. But I would say, yes, ask the question. Do you want me to work the mic? Do you prefer doing it this way? Are you the type of engineer that likes to do 5 run-throughs and then we'll fix the little places we need to fix? As a singer, you need to ask yourself the question, do you like auto-tune? How much of auto-tune do you prefer? Because some engineers will just freaking ride that auto-tune button. But if that bothers you, you need to say something so that he knows or she knows how far they need to take that auto-tune, or if they're going to have to stop you for you to fix a pitch problem. Also, I would say take snacks. That has nothing to do with asking them, but you don't want to be asking your engineer, especially if you're paying them, can we take a break? Can we do this and that and the other? But as a singer, you need energy, just like an athlete. You use a lot of bodily energy, a lot of calorie burning when singing, especially in the studio, because it's a full body. You're trying to have emotion with no audience, so you have no energy reciprocation, and you're singing. And so when you sing, you excrete a lot of fluid. So you need to make sure not only are you really hydrated, but take a thermos with tea, take your peppermint tea, take some really good protein snacks. I have a lot of them listed in my blog under my Tuesday tips. So we'll talk about my website later, but I basically have the singer's working diet. And a lot of these foods I just keep in my purse in the vocal booth. And I'll just take a quick snack while we're listening to a playback or something if I'm feeling low on energy or I've hit a wall. But also, have these conversations with your engineer. Is it okay to have food? Can I have tea? And also ask them what kind of vocal booth space they have. And I don't know, I think you're going to have to, I like to be comfy, but also learn how to sing circumstance thing. If you can learn how to sing in front of your camera in a very still environment in your house to yourself, you'll be able to sing in some very uncomfortable situations. And the vocal booth, it's a very icy place. It's very hard to get an arena type vocal when there's nobody in the room and you're hearing dry vocals being played. Yeah. So you have to get acquainted with your voice. The more you use your voice in your daily life under very weird circumstances, the better you're going to feel. And the more confident you're going to feel in front of a new engineer while you're building a relationship.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you're saying at the end there. It is important to build some kind of rapport. So, you know, because I can't imagine, the same as you, lucked out in terms of my producer, but mm-hmm. Imagine feeling a bit isolated or that you don't know whether they like it or not. You don't know their tone. You don't know whether they say, you know, how they communicate with, whether that was good or not good. Like, it can feel so vulnerable to be putting yourself out there. And we're already so concerned about whether we sound good and whether we're hitting the notes on or not. So taking a moment to get to know your producer, your engineer, to build some rapport, so important.
Yeah. Yeah, and also ask them, you know, how do you like to communicate? That might be another question. How do you like to communicate when we're recording? Are you going to be very blunt and honest with me? And if maybe give them the go ahead that it's okay, be blunt, or tell me exactly what you're thinking, or I want to do this together. But if you don't want them commenting on everything and you just want them to record a song, you know, you're just going to have to feel it out, but ask them, you know, or give them the freedom to speak up if they feel like they might not have done that because they don't know you that well. So yeah, those are all, I think, questions that you can ask them for sure.
Absolutely, because it is a bit of a teamwork moment. You know, you're working together to achieve 100%. The best result possible, because it's part of their reputation, but it's also part of yours, and what the product that you're producing. So I love that we've talked about the questions we need to ask. 1, to feel comfortable. 2, to get the best result, and 3, to have a good experience, I think, because you want to go, okay, it sounded great and I came out really good, but I hated that experience. Like, you want it to be something that, you know, yes, let's do this again. I'm so excited to jump into that even more. Amazing, so good, really practical. We're going to pop all of those things in a PDF, and again, wanting the summit to be something that is, you know, okay, I'll watch that again, engage with that.
Yes.
And also be inspired around how to be a holistic person, how to take care of ourselves, not just take care of our instrument, but also who we are as human beings. And so I'd love to chat with you a little bit about how you're taking care of yourself in this crazy time, you know, in New South Wales, Victoria, here in Australia. We're locked down in our homes at the moment. How are you taking care of your mental health, and what are you doing? You know, you're a new mom as well. So many things going on. What's been part of your process, even if you don't do it all the time? You know, we'd love to know and be just, you know, maybe get some ideas about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think for a really long time, I never even would use mental health and my name in the same sentence, because I am a true blue optimist. Nothing can get me down. I'm either that or I get angry about something. But I think that with this whole COVID global pandemic has really showed me that that we all need to look at our mental health and how we cope with things, and the best way we can kind of help ourselves do that. So I would say the 2 things that have been my go-to for taking care of myself and my mental health, not just my physical health, but is healthy daily habits and open communication. So by healthy daily habits, that can be anything for anyone, but for me, it's reading my Bible, it's prayer, it's making sure I'm hydrated, making sure I'm eating well, and not just a diet. No, eating good foods for me, like nourishing myself. But then if I want a donut, have a donut. If I want, you know what I mean? Like if I want that chocolate, have a chocolate. If I want a red wine, have a red wine. But eating things that are going to fuel my body. So eating just good foods, you know, even if it's comfort food, just cooking a lot or making fresh bread, And the good, healthy daily habits, stuff like going for a run or going for a daily walk, making sure I'm getting sunshine. Sometimes that's even like, I've just been really on my vitamin game. I know that sounds really silly, but since getting pregnant, I was prescribed some vitamins, and vitamin D, which is, we don't get a lot of that in the wintertime when we don't have sun, and we've been inside a lot because of lockdown. So your vitamin D is probably low, which is like directly correlated with having energy and being happy. So having healthy daily habits has been a go-to for me, making sure that I don't always have to have a to-do list or like a habit tracker, but I know that those things help me positively look at my day in a different light than maybe how I woke up. So if I woke up kind of on the wrong side of the bed, which has happened, like I miss my family terribly. I just had a baby. I had no family around, but it's also been a beautiful experience for me and my husband. And it's just looking at being able to look at those positive things, but sometimes I have to shift my focus, and those healthy habits help me. So it can be anything from like just looking forward to that morning cup of coffee, FaceTiming family. I have that on my to-do list, not to check it off, but it's so important to see them every day. Reading a good book, or I read a lot of like educational books, which I find those very relaxing. And I read my Bible a lot. I read my Bible a lot throughout the day because it shifts my perspective and helps me see the bigger picture, helps me kind of not wallow when I'm having like a pity party day, which is totally normal. Have a pity party, but I don't want to sit in that forever because it just makes you feel bleh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love my daily coffee, and that is a part of my day, and definitely getting some exercise in. Gosh, that is just the best. And then open communication. So if you're waking up and you know you're on the wrong side of the bed, you can't quite put your finger on why you're in a funk, talk about it. Like if you're on FaceTime, like with my mom, I say, Mom, I just woke up, I'm in a funk, and you're irritating me, which is not normal for you to irritate me. I haven't seen you in 2.5 years. And we're having a phone call, and everything right now is irritating me. The laundry, and nothing's right. That is normal in this weird kind of situation because we're being really stretched. And I'm not going to use the word anxiety because I think we need to be careful using that word because a lot of people do deal with real full-blown anxiety. But there is an anxiousness around not knowing what's going to happen, and not knowing where's the end, and not being able to brace for closure. So I would say I have been recently comparing it to an open-ended deployment. So my husband's in the military, and we've done lots of deployments to the Middle East, deployments everywhere. And it's always the 2-week lead up that is the most difficult aspect of the whole deployment, is the 2 weeks before. It's just hard. It's like bracing for this inevitable, like you're just waiting on it. And then finally they get to you, say goodbye, and it's like, it all just dissipates. Or an open-ended deployment, like Jordan was one time on a deployment and there was no end date. It just kept getting extended. And when you don't have a date or a time frame that you know you're going to have to cope with psychologically, it's very difficult to brace for that and to get through it because you have okay, 1 more month, or this is only going to be 8 months. So for instance, like I knew his Middle East one was 7.5. So I could brace for that. But if it's open-ended and there's no end date, that's hard. So you really have to just kind of go through the daily motions of just making sure that you're honest with yourself. You have healthy daily habits, and then sometimes have the pizza, order the pizza, or sometimes, don't do the things. Sometimes just have a pajama day. Like I'm a type A, I need to do things. So that makes me feel better. Majority of the time is me having a list and then ticking it off. That makes me feel good at the end of the day. Some people, that's not their thing. So be honest with yourself about what your thing is, but make sure you have some healthy habits in there, some healthy ways to look at your life with gratitude and things like that. Get out in the sun, go to the beach. I know there's a lot of things we can't do right now, but you could cook a good meal, or maybe if you're homesick, try to cook something that your mom always made, or I don't know, just you gotta find ways to see the joy in what's going on and learn from it, but then also just embrace the funk. I've had to embrace the funk. And I've had like weird baby hormones on top of all of it. So I've been able to be like, okay, I think this is a hormone day, but still it sucks. Like, I'm just going to say that it sucks, but that's okay. Like, you don't have to pretend. Just don't pretend. I think that's the whole thing with open communication. Just be honest. You don't have to just sweep it under the rug and just pretend like we haven't all been locked away and there's this pandemic and there's a lot of divisiveness. We don't have to lie that these things are real, or, you know, that we're happy all the time. It's okay to just, to go with it. And I think embracing every day differently, that's important too. You know, we're not the same people every day, so we can't do the same thing every day. And especially in the monotony of lockdown and being stuck in your house and
And it is kind of like an open-ended deployment. Like, we don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when, as musicians, when we're going to be able to go back to earning a living, when we're going to be able to go back to even playing gigs where we're allowed to have full capacity. You know, there's so many things that are unknown, that are, I feel like life, to be honest, is always like that. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring. But even more now, we have less capacity to make decisions, to control what we do in these spaces. So I love that encouragement to embrace the funk, but to communicate the funk as well. I think that's valuable.
With yourself too.
Relationships.
Yeah. And if you don't have anyone with you, like I did the first COVID lockdown by myself. So my husband was deployed and I didn't have a baby. I obviously wasn't pregnant, but I remember that I had to be very open with myself about how I was feeling. So I made sure I didn't just kind of wake up one day in a really like weird place in my head. And I just journaled and I'd write down, wow, I'm really missing family right now. My heart hurts. I feel burdened by it. But you know, I'm doing okay. I'm not worried about my finances right now. Some people are worried about their finances, but have their family around. So everyone has had something that they've had to work through or brace for or deal with. And financial struggle has been a main one for a lot of independent musicians. We haven't had income. I've been lucky that my business was online before this happened. So I've done well. But if you would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be the one doing okay, I would have laughed at your face because, at your face. I would have laughed in your face because that's so silly to me. Like, I would have never pegged that because I've always struggled financially as a musician, as most of us do. But it's been a sore spot for me. Like, I've always wanted to just be a bit more financially stable. And so I think and I have struggled financially. Like, I had a really bad lawsuit back when I was signed with Capitol Records, and that was very stressful. So, and I didn't deal with that as healthily as I've dealt with stuff later on in life. So I think you can deal with things good and bad. And I was in la la land. I think I wasn't open about how I was feeling, or that the days that I did feel sad or felt messed up by it, or grief for things lost, or even family members. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think that healthy, open communication is a great place to start. And some healthy daily habits will really just help you physically cope with stress. So I've talked about running for singing, but running for me and my mental health is the biggest stress reliever. I don't love running, but it tires out my body, and I don't hold on to stress the same way when I'm tired from a workout. It like gets rid of that like negative energy. It like, I don't know. And I sleep better at night. So running and doing something physically goes a long way in your mental health, I think. And that has been my go-to. Like, I don't really have the motivation to work out these days. There's no gym open. There's nothing to really work out for except for yourself. So it's purely to sleep good at night. It just gets rid of junk, like lots of like the toxins that you build up from stress. I feel like some type of physical activity, whether you like lifting heavy stuff, which I do, or running or swimming outside or a long walk, like go for a 10K walk. Oh, that's the best. In the sun, you're exhausted and you sleep better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how it all ties in together.
It really does, yeah.
Chynna, I feel like we could talk for ages.
I know, we always do this. I need to plug in my computer.
While you're doing that, we've talked about how to sing, we've talked about your blog and your website. If people want to engage with you, either and just learn from you in some of the articles that you've written, the resources that you have, or they're interested in kind of maybe doing some singing training, vocal training with you, how do they connect with you? We'll put all the links down, but would love to know what the breadth of things that you offer to artists.
The main place where you can find everything is ChynnaTaylor.com. My website pretty much will link you to all my social medias, to my blog, which is ChynnaTaylor.com/Tuesday tips. So I like to do my tips on a Tuesday, and they're all in the same place, the same tab on my website, and they're all really fun. I really enjoy doing them. That's a free resource. You don't have to be subscribed or anything to get those resources. I also put a lot of stuff on my Instagram. I share the same stuff on my Facebook, but my Instagram is really where I engage the most. I do a lot of stories, IGTVs, posts. I'm doing reels now, which are really fun because they're like little tidbit kind of tips and things like that. So Instagram is Chynna_Taylor, and that's really where I connect. I put my coffee posts on there. I put
Are you bringing back Thanksgiving baking again?
Yes. I have lots of Fall Friday things planned, and a lot of it is around Thanksgiving recipes because I get a lot of questions about that. So I want to show Aussies how they can make like my favorite Thanksgiving stuff, but here, because it is a little bit different. Like you kind of have to know your way around the Woolies in order to pull off some of these American recipes. But yeah, I do a lot of stories about my daughter, and you can just see a lot about my life and what I'm up to and singing. And I just put lots of stuff on Instagram. So that's kind of like my main social media platform. But my website has everything. You can book for online vocal coaching. I'm offering some new products coming up because I won't be able to take on a bunch of new clients, but I can do performance reviews and vowel manipulation and different things like that. So you still get vocal coaching from me. It's just not necessarily a 1 hour or half an hour block, but I'm going to be releasing all of that next month. So I'm pretty excited about that. Just some ways I can connect with more people and have a daughter. And oh my gosh, I have a daughter. Can you believe that? I was only newly pregnant, I think, when we did this last year. So yeah. It's exciting. And I haven't even talked about, like, I haven't recorded what I learned about my vocal journey while being pregnant or postpartum. So I still want to do all that, but that's a whole nother thing physically to go through. Just very exciting stuff, and that's where you can find me. And I've really enjoyed it today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I just feel like there's just we're the same. We're both super positive people, you know, trying to make the best out of some difficult situations, and yes, also seeing the light and the hope in the world that we're in, and wanting to be that change that we want to see. So I love that about you. I appreciate just how practical you've been. Can't wait to share your thoughts and this with the summit attendees. Thank you for being a part of it, Chynna.
No worries. My absolute pleasure. It's always so good to talk to you, and I love being an independent musician, and there's so much to learn all the time. So we're just all on this crazy ride together, and hopefully we'll be playing some shows very soon. I mean, you know, seasons come and seasons go. So we want the season to go. Amen.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you very much.